Lady Serafina Blackwood, known in certain circles as the Shadow Viper, and in her own mind as desperately trying to pay off her late father's debts before the creditors sell the estate, stood at the grand ballroom's entrance, her emerald gown shimmering like poisoned honey. "All right, Sarah. Tonight's the night. Steal the moonstone pendant from Duke Hartford's vault, sell it to that sketchy merchant in the East Quarter, and finally, get those vultures off your back. Simple. Easy. Nothing could possibly go wrong." Across the ballroom, Lord Adrian Hartford nearly choked on his champagne. The voice had appeared 3 days ago, crystal clear in his mind, as if someone were whispering directly into his thoughts. At first, he'd assumed he was going mad. Then he'd realized the voice coincided perfectly with Lady Blackwood's presence. And now, having spent 72 hours listening to her unfiltered internal monologue, Adrian had come to a startling conclusion. The notorious villainess of high society was absolutely hilarious. Oh God, there he is. Lord Perfect with his perfect jawline and his perfect hair and his perfect ancestral fortune that he did nothing to earn except be born. Must be nice, Hartford. Must be so nice. Adrian bit his lip to keep from laughing. He'd spent the past 3 days covertly following her around, listening to commentary that ranged from genuinely diabolical plotting to complaints about her corset stays to surprisingly astute observations about the hypocrisy of aristocratic society. Okay, don't make eye contact. Walk naturally. You're just an elegant lady at a ball. Definitely not planning a heist. Definitely not imagining 17 different ways to make that smug smile disappear. Lady Blackwood, Adrian said smoothly, appearing directly in her path. What a pleasure. Serafina's external smile was gracious. Her internal monologue was less so. OH for the love of. Why is he talking to me? Go away. Shoo. I have a vault to rob, and you're ruining my concentration with your stupid perfect face. Lord Hartford, she replied with a curtsy, her voice like silk. The pleasure is entirely mine. The pleasure will be mine when I'm holding your family's heirloom, and you're standing in an empty vault wondering how you got outsmarted by a woman in heels. I was hoping you might honor me with a dance. Adrian extended his hand, genuinely curious to see how she'd handle this. A dance? A dance? I don't have time for, wait. The vault is on the 3rd floor. If I dance with him here, everyone sees me. Perfect alibi. Then I slip away, and when the pendant goes missing, dozens of witnesses will swear I was in the ballroom. Oh, Hartford, you beautiful idiot, you just made this so much easier. I would be delighted, Serafina purred. As they took their positions for the waltz, Adrian had to admire her composure. Externally, she was the picture of elegance. Internally, she was running through blueprints of his family estate like a master thief. Okay, 3 dances should do it. That's roughly 12 minutes. Then I excuse myself for the powder room, slip up the servants' stairs, pick the vault lock. Thank you, Papa, for teaching me that before you gambled everything away. Grab the pendant, and return before anyone notices. The timing has to be perfect. Adrian deliberately stepped on her foot. Oh. My apologies, Lady Blackwood, he said, steadying her. Ow. You clumsy. Deep breaths, Sarah. Smile. Smile. Oh, think nothing of it, my lord. These crowded ballrooms make graceful dancing quite challenging. That was exactly what she said aloud, and Adrian nearly broke character laughing. I swear, if you step on my foot again, Hartford, I'm stealing 2 of your family heirlooms. Maybe that hideous vase in the entrance hall. Yes, the ugly one that looks like a drunk peacock. For the next 12 minutes, Adrian deliberately botched the dance, stepping on her toes twice more, spinning her in the wrong direction, and generally making himself as clumsy as possible while she maintained perfect composure outwardly and screamed internally. This man cannot dance. How did he make it to adulthood without learning basic motor coordination? I'm being assaulted by his incompetence. My poor feet. After this is over, I'm definitely stealing that vase. And maybe his favorite horse. What was its name? Midnight? Stealing Midnight. That'll show him. When the 3rd dance finally ended, Serafina curtsied with a smile that could cut glass. Thank you for the memorable dances, Lord Hartford. I hope you trip on your way home. I hope both sides of your pillow are warm tonight. I hope you step in a puddle while wearing your good shoes. The pleasure was all mine, Adrian replied, bowing. Then, as she turned to leave, he called out, Oh, Lady Blackwood? She paused. What now? I've been experiencing the most peculiar situation lately, he said conversationally. You see, I seem to have developed the ability to hear someone's thoughts. Quite clearly, actually. Every single one. Serafina's blood turned to ice.
No.
No, no, no. He's bluffing. He has to be bluffing. There's no way. For instance, Adrian continued, his eyes twinkling with mischief, I now know that you think my ancestral vase looks like a drunk peacock, which, if I'm being honest, is the most accurate description anyone has ever given it. The color drained from Serafina's face. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. How long has he been hearing? The heist. The comments about his face. The horse-stealing threats. That internal rant about his mother's hat collection. The detailed planning of tonight's vault robbery. She did the only reasonable thing a villainess in her position could do. She fainted. Or rather, she pretended to faint, which Adrian immediately knew because her internal monologue continued at full volume.
Play dead.
Play unconscious. Maybe if I'm convincing enough, he'll forget everything and wait. If I'm unconscious, how am I thinking this? Can you think while unconscious? Is he going to realize I'm faking? Oh God. This is the worst plan I've ever had, and I once tried to poison a viscount with bad oysters. Lady Blackwood, Adrian said gently, kneeling beside her unconscious form, I know you're not actually fainted. Damn it. They sat in Lord Hertford's private study, Serafina perched on the edge of a leather chair like a bird ready to flee, Adrian leaning against his desk with his arms crossed and an infuriatingly amused expression. This is it. He's going to call the authorities. I'm going to prison. Or worse, social exile. The estate will be seized. Mother will die of shame. Well, she's already dead, but she'd die again of shame. And I'll end up in debtor's prison eating gruel and regretting every life choice that led me to. I'm not going to turn you in, Adrian said. Serafina's head snapped up. You're not. Why not? Wait, don't question it. Maybe he's an idiot. No, can't be an idiot if he figured out the mind-reading thing. Is this a trap? It's definitely a trap. I have a proposition for you instead, Adrian continued. You see, these past 3 days of listening to your thoughts have been the most entertaining days of my entire life. Entertaining? Entertaining? My existential crisis is entertainment to you? Your commentary on society is razor-sharp, he went on. Your observations about people are uncomfortably accurate. And your schemes, while morally questionable, are genuinely brilliant. Don't fall for his flattery, Sarah. Villains don't get complimented. This is definitely leading somewhere horrible. So here's my offer. Instead of stealing from me, work with me. Serafina blinked. Work with you? Is he insane? Has the mind-reading broken his brain? Why would Lord Perfect need help from a disgraced villainess? Adrian pulled out a file folder. Do you know Lord Pemberton? The textile merchant who made his fortune through probably illegal means and definitely immoral labor practices? The one who cheated 3 families out of their inheritance and laughed about it at the club? I see you do, Adrian said, catching her expression. He's been bribing officials, exploiting workers, and recently, I discovered he's planning to force several families into bankruptcy so he can buy their properties at auction. Properties that have been in those families for generations. Serafina leaned forward, interested despite herself. And you want to stop him? I want to destroy him, Adrian corrected. But I can't do it through legal means. He's bought off too many officials. I need someone who thinks like a villain to beat a villain. Okay, this is either the best or worst proposition I've ever heard. Potentially worse than that time I agreed to help Lady Thornberry ruin her husband's mistress and ended up accidentally setting fire to a gazebo. Why should I trust you? Serafina asked aloud. Adrian's expression softened. Because I've been listening to your thoughts for 3 days, and I know exactly why you've been doing all of this. The debts. The creditors. Your father's gambling. The servants who depend on you keeping the estate running. He knows.
He knows everything.
Every desperate, humiliating detail. You're not a villainess, Lady Blackwood, Adrian said quietly. You're someone who's been backed into a corner, making impossible choices to protect the people who depend on you. There's a difference. For the first time in 3 years, since her father's death and the discovery of his massive debts, Serafina felt something crack in her chest. The constant performance, the exhausting facade, the endless schemes and plots, it was all laid bare in front of someone who somehow, impossibly, understood. Don't cry. Villainesses don't cry. Even former villainesses. Even desperate villainesses who haven't slept properly in months and are so tired of being alone in this mess. A single tear escaped down her cheek. I'll pay off your father's debts, Adrian said. In exchange, you help me take down Pemberton and anyone else who's been exploiting people while the rest of society looks the other way. We'll call it a partnership of reformed morals. This is too good to be true. Nothing is ever this easy. There has to be a catch. What's the catch? She asked. Adrian grinned. You have to let me keep listening to your internal commentary. It's better than any theater performance I've ever seen. Oh, you smug, infuriating, stupidly kind. Wait, did he just call me theater? I'm theater to him? Despite everything, Serafina laughed. A real laugh, not the practiced tinkling sound she used at parties, but something genuine and startled and relieved. You're absolutely insufferable, Lord Hertford. But maybe this could work. I'll take that as a yes, Lady Blackwood.
Fine. Yes. Partnership.
But I'm still judging your interior decorating choices. That vase is hideous. The vase was my grandmother's. Your grandmother had terrible taste. Adrian laughed, and for the first time in a very long time, Serafina felt something other than desperate determination. She felt hope. The plan to destroy Lord Pemberton began exactly 3 hours after their agreement, which was approximately how long it took Adrian to draw up a contract absolving Serafina's debts and for Serafina to stop internally panicking about the life-altering turn her evening had taken. They sat in Adrian's study, papers spread across every surface, mapping out Pemberton's business dealings like generals planning a siege. Okay, focus, Sarah. You're good at this. This is just like planning a heist, except morally justifiable and with significantly less chance of prison.
Probably.
Maybe. According to my sources, Adrian said, pointing to a ledger, Pemberton has been falsifying inspection reports at his textile factories. If we could get evidence. The inspectors won't testify, Serafina interrupted. He's paying them too well. We need to go deeper. We need someone inside the factories. Someone he wouldn't suspect. Someone who could gather evidence while appearing to be... Oh, that's brilliant. I'm brilliant. Why am I brilliant at crime? What are you thinking? Adrian asked, recognizing the look on her face that he'd learned meant she was plotting something spectacular. We need to make him vulnerable before we strike, Serafina said, her eyes gleaming. Pemberton's expanding his business, which means he needs investors. What if he found the perfect investor? Someone wealthy, interested in textiles, and completely fabricated. Create a fake investor. Make him desperate to impress them. Have him show off his operations personally, document everything, and then spring the trap. It's perfect. I'm perfect. This partnership might actually work. Adrian was quiet for a moment, and Serafina felt a flutter of doubt. He thinks it's too risky. Or too illegal.
Or...
That's brilliant, Adrian said, his face lighting up. We create an entire false identity, complete with forged credentials and a fake business history. He'll never suspect someone actively courting him is actually investigating him. Did Lord Perfect just call my morally ambiguous scheme brilliant? Is this what validation feels like? I think I like it. Over the next 2 weeks, they became the most unlikely partnership high society had ever witnessed. By day, they maintained appearances. Adrian the respected duke, Serafina the mysterious widow, a fiction Adrian had suggested to explain her sudden financial recovery and social rehabilitation. By night, they plotted. The fake investor needs a name, Serafina said one evening, sprawled rather unladylike across Adrian's study couch. The formality between them had evaporated after the 5th strategy session, replaced by something that felt dangerously close to friendship. Or maybe more than friendship.
No.
Focus, Sarah. This is a professional partnership. You will not develop feelings for the man who heard you mentally insult him 17 times a day for 3 days. Even if he does have that annoyingly perfect smile. And that laugh. And the way he actually listens to your ideas instead of dismissing them because you're a woman. Focus. You're thinking very loudly about something, Adrian observed, trying not to smile. Shut up. I'm naming our fake investor. Serafina grabbed a pen. How about Lord Reginald Ashworth? Wealthy industrialist from the north, recently widowed, looking to diversify his holdings. Please like it.
I spent 20 minutes on that backstory.
Perfect, Adrian said. Now we just need someone to play him. They both paused. It can't be you, Serafina said slowly. Pemberton knows you. And it can't be any of my usual associates, Adrian agreed. He'd recognize them too. A slow smile spread across Serafina's face. Oh, this is either genius or insane. What if Lord Ashworth doesn't meet Pemberton in person initially, she suggested. What if his assistant handles the preliminary negotiations? Adrian caught on immediately. And his assistant would be? Me, Serafina said triumphantly. But not as Lady Blackwood. As Miss Sarah Brown, efficient secretary to the reclusive Lord Ashworth, who prefers to have his people handle the details before he commits to any meeting. I can do this. I've been pretending to be someone I'm not for 3 years. What's one more disguise? You'll be incredible, Adrian said with absolute confidence. He believes in me. When was the last time anyone believed in me? The thought must have shown on her face because Adrian added more softly, I mean it, Serafina. You're the most capable person I've ever met. Pemberton won't know what hit him. Serafina felt her cheeks warm. Stop being nice to me. It's unsettling. It's wonderful, and I hate that I love it. Never, Adrian replied, grinning. This man is going to be the death of me. Or the making of me. Possibly both. Miss Sarah Brown wore spectacles, severe gray dresses, and had her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She carried a leather portfolio and had the brisk, no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd spent years managing the affairs of wealthy men. She was also Serafina Blackwood, and she was absolutely terrified. Okay, you can do this. You've infiltrated garden parties, stolen jewelry, forged documents, and convinced a viscount you were his long-lost cousin. One textile merchant should be easy. Should be easy. Why doesn't it feel easy? Miss Brown, welcome, Lord Pemberton said, his smile oily as he gestured to a chair in his factory office. Through the grimy window, Serafina could see rows of workers at their looms, the air thick with dust. Look at this place. Those workers are children. Children. And the ventilation is non-existent. This man deserves everything that's coming to him. Lord Ashworth appreciates you taking the time, Serafina said crisply, her accent carefully neutral, nothing like her usual aristocratic drawl. He's very interested in your operation.
Please buy it.
Please believe I'm just a boring secretary. Of course, Pemberton said, leaning back in his chair. Lord Ashworth has impeccable timing. I'm expanding into 3 new markets this quarter. For the next hour, Pemberton boasted about his business, while Serafina took meticulous notes. Every word he said incriminated him further. The bribes, the falsified safety reports, the intimidation of competitors. He's actually confessing. He's so confident in his corruption that he's bragging about it. The arrogance. The sheer, stupid arrogance. And the workers? Serafina asked, allowing a slight edge into her voice. Lord Ashworth has concerns about labor costs. Translation, does he care at all about the human beings he's exploiting? Survey says no. Workers are expendable, Pemberton said dismissively. There's always more where they came from. The profit margins are what matter. I'm going to destroy you. Not for me. Not even for Adrian. For every single person in this factory who's been treated like they're disposable. That evening, back in Adrian's study, Serafina slammed her portfolio on the desk with more force than necessary. He's worse than we thought, she said, pacing. Much worse. There are children working 14-hour days in those factories, Adrian. Children who should be in school, playing, having childhoods. Breathe, Sarah. Don't cry. You're angry, not sad. Definitely angry. She was both, and Adrian knew it. We're going to stop him, he said firmly. Everything you documented today, it's enough to not only ruin him socially, but to bring criminal charges. It's not enough yet, Serafina said, shaking her head. We need more. We need the financial records that show where the bribes went. We need testimony from the workers. We need you to breathe, Adrian interrupted gently, crossing to where she stood. Serafina, look at me. She did, and he was struck by how different she looked from the calculating villainess he'd first encountered. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears, her jaw set with determination, and there was something fierce and protective in her expression.
Don't look at me like that.
Like I'm someone good. Like I'm someone worth. You are good, Adrian said quietly. Whatever you used to think about yourself, whatever you had to do to survive, you're good, Serafina. This proves it. I hate that you can hear my thoughts. I hate that you know all my weaknesses. I hate that I'm starting to need you to know them. I don't hate it, Adrian said, answering the thought she hadn't spoken aloud. Serafina's breath caught. They were standing too close, and the air between them felt charged with something dangerous and wonderful and terrifying.
Kiss me. Don't kiss me.
I don't know what I want except that I want. A knock at the door shattered the moment. My lord, Adrian's butler called. You have an urgent message. Adrian stepped back, and Serafina exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Saved by the butler. Or ruined by the butler. I really need to figure out which emotions I'm having. The message, it turned out, was perfect timing. One of Pemberton's former workers, a young woman who'd been fired for complaining about conditions, had agreed to testify. She had documentation, letters, ledgers, everything they needed. This is it, Serafina whispered, reading the message. This is how we end him. And then what? After Pemberton is destroyed and the partnership is over, what happens to us? She didn't ask the question aloud, but from the way Adrian looked at her, she suspected he'd heard it anyway. The downfall of Lord Pemberton was not swift or dramatic. It was methodical, devastating, and deeply satisfying. Serafina, still disguised as Miss Sarah Brown, delivered the evidence to the magistrate personally. Adrian used his influence to ensure it reached the right people, officials who couldn't be bribed, investigators who cared about justice. The former worker's testimony was damning. The documents Serafina had gathered were irrefutable. Within a week, Pemberton's factories were shut down pending investigation. Within 2 weeks, he'd been arrested. Within 3, his entire empire had collapsed, and the families he'd tried to destroy were negotiating to purchase his holdings for fair prices. High society was scandalized. The papers called it the biggest fall from grace in a generation. Serafina called it a good start. 1 down. How many corrupt aristocrats to go? Let me count. Actually, let's not. That's depressing. She stood in Adrian's study. It had become theirs over the past weeks, really, staring out the window at the London evening. Behind her, she heard Adrian enter. You did it, he said softly. We did it, she corrected, not turning around. Now comes the hard part. The part where I have to figure out what happens next. Serafina, Adrian began, and something in his tone made her turn to face him. I need to tell you something. Oh God. Here it comes. Thanks for the help, Lady Blackwood, but our partnership is concluded. Please see yourself out. I knew it. I knew this was temporary. The mind reading, Adrian continued. It's fading. Serafina's heart stopped. What? It started 3 days ago. Your thoughts are getting quieter. More distant. My physician thinks whatever caused it, a hex, a curse, some magical anomaly, it's wearing off. He won't be able to hear my thoughts anymore. He won't know what I'm really thinking. He won't. She should have felt relieved. The invasion of privacy would end. She could have her internal monologue back to herself. Instead, she felt loss. How long? She asked. Maybe a week. Maybe less. Adrian stepped closer. That's not what I wanted to tell you, though. Then what? I've been able to hear every thought you've had for almost a month now, Adrian said. Every scheme, every sarcastic comment, every moment of self-doubt. Every time you've thought about me. Serafina felt her face flame. Adrian. Every time you've called me Lord Perfect, while simultaneously noticing my smile. Every time you've been terrified that this partnership would end. Every time you've wanted. Stop, Serafina whispered. Please don't. Please keep going. I don't know what I want. I'm going to lose the ability to hear your thoughts, Adrian said quietly, now standing directly in front of her. So before I do, I need you to know. I've heard everything, Serafina. And I'm absolutely, completely in love with you. The world tilted.
He what?
He what? Did Lord Perfect just... Did he actually? I need to sit down. Why is the room spinning? You're in love with me? Serafina repeated, her voice barely audible. You heard me mentally insult you for 3 days straight, plot to rob you, and threaten to steal your horse, and you fell in love with me? I fell in love with your brilliant, devious, compassionate, ridiculous mind, Adrian corrected. With the woman who schemes to help people while pretending she's heartless. With someone who cares so deeply about justice that she spent 14-hour days infiltrating a factory to save workers she'd never met. This isn't real. This doesn't happen to villainesses. We don't get happy endings. We get exile and loneliness and... You're not a villainess, Adrian said, catching her thought. You never were. I don't know how to do this, Serafina admitted. I don't know how to be someone's. I've spent so long pretending, Adrian. What if you don't like who I actually am when you can't hear my thoughts? What if? He kissed her. It was soft and tentative and perfect, and for the first time in weeks, Serafina's internal monologue went completely, blissfully silent. When they finally broke apart, Adrian was smiling. What are you thinking? He asked. Serafina laughed, that genuine, unguarded sound she'd only recently rediscovered. You'll have to learn to live without knowing, she said. I'm thinking that I love you too, you impossible man. I'm thinking that maybe reformed Villainess's DO get happy endings. I'm thinking that I want to take down every corrupt aristocrat in London with you by my side. Although, she added aloud, I suppose I should tell you, I love you too, since you won't be able to eavesdrop much longer. Say it again, Adrian requested, grinning. Absolutely not. Once is already more sentiment than any self-respecting villainess should express. I love you. I love you. I love you. I heard that, Adrian murmured against her hair as he pulled her close. Good, Serafina whispered back. Because once you can't hear my thoughts anymore, I'm going to make you work for every compliment. But I'll be thinking them. Every single day. Epilogue. 6 months later. The scandal sheets had a new favorite couple. The Duke of Hertford and the mysterious Lady Blackwood, who seemed to spend their time championing workers' rights, investigating corrupt officials, and being disgustingly in love. Lord Waverley next? Serafina asked, sprawling across the couch in their shared study. Adrian had insisted she move half her books in, and her half had somehow overtaken 3/4 of his shelves. The one embezzling from war widows' funds. Adrian looked up from his papers. Absolutely. What are you thinking? He asked that question several times a day now, without the benefit of mind reading. Sometimes Serafina told him. Sometimes she just smiled mysteriously and made him guess. I'm thinking that we should host a charity gala, she said. Something respectable and boring where Waverley would feel comfortable. And then, you orchestrate his downfall in front of all of high society.
See?
You're learning to think like a villainess. I'm so proud. I'm thinking that I've never been happier. I'm thinking that saving people is so much more satisfying than robbing them. I'm thinking that I found a partner in every sense of the word. Adrian crossed to the couch, sat down, and pulled her into his arms. You know, he said thoughtfully, I do miss being able to hear your thoughts sometimes.
Do you now?
Serafina tilted her head up to look at him. And why is that? Because you had the most entertaining internal commentary I've ever heard. I still do. You're just missing it. Right now, I'm thinking about how your cravat is slightly crooked, and it's driving me crazy. Also about how we should definitely investigate Lord Waverley. Also about how I want to kiss you. Multitasking. What are you thinking right now? Adrian asked. Serafina reached up and adjusted his cravat, then kissed him soundly. I'm thinking, she said when they broke apart, that being a reformed villainess is the best decision I ever made. Even better than trying to steal my family heirloom? Especially better than that. Your security was terrible, by the way. I would have absolutely succeeded. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad you heard my thoughts. I'm so glad fate or magic or whatever it was decided to turn my worst nightmare into my greatest blessing. I love you, Adrian said quietly. I know, Serafina replied, smirking. I told you once already. Don't get greedy. I love you too. Every single day. In every thought you can't hear. But somehow, from the way he smiled, she suspected he knew anyway. Some things didn't need mind reading. Some things were simply understood between two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way possible, a villainess and a hero who heard her every thought and loved her anyway. And if occasionally, late at night, Serafina still mentally commented on his interior decorating choices, that vase really was hideous, well, that was between her and her own unheard thoughts. Though I should probably tell him I donated it to charity last week. Eventually. Maybe.